I was just gonna step through here and kind of show you some stuff. I I've been well, yesterday I started just kind of working on like a template for Shiny applications, because I don't think that there's many good templates out there that actually kind of like set you up
Hmm.
for success and actually building a big application. What you have are um, what you have is actually one really bad example, which is the geysers.
Yeah,
um,
it's
and
terrible.
well, it doesn't help you. It doesn't show you how to abstract a big R application. For one, we'll just actually just kind of step through here. But if you want to, uh, do you have a GitLab account?
I think a GitHub account.
You have a GitHub account? No, that's fine. We could we could step through this later if you like, if you actually want to get this code and run it. But if you look here, there's a few things. There's this .r profile, okay, and
Hmm.
this onload here. So, do you know what the .r profile is?
I've never really used it. I
It's
see it's
it's
there.
yeah, it's a script that runs before you get to your console. So if we were to come down here, click on .r profile, and then I said something like, um, rem loaded or something, right? Um, if I restart my R session, okay, you'll see down here it says rem loaded, right? And so this is actually run on startup,
Hmm.
right? And that's why RM adds this to your .r profile, so that every time you actually open up your project in that directory, um, it loads. Uh, it runs
Hmm.
a script here in this RM file before you even do anything, and gets your environment set up. Um, this onload folder is basically me doing that, right? For myself, settings that I want, um, generally speaking, whenever I'm doing my R applications.
Hmm.
So what you'll see a lot of the time are, and actually, let me just see if I can find one that I've built in the past. GitHub, turn in, and let's just see what we've got here. This is an old, yeah, it's ugly. Let's find something uglier. You can tell whenever I swapped over to GitLab. Let's see here. Maybe there's something in here. Let me see if I've got a big .r profile somewhere. Right here. Nope, I don't. Anyways, the point is this file can get really ugly really quick if you like to use it.
Hmm.
There's absolutely no reason why you can't separate all of your startup scripts into another folder, right? So I have this little activate.r file just like rm does, and this will run and it will load options for various different packages that I have included or am working with in this project. And as time goes on, I'm thinking I'm just going to have me a file for each of my different, you know, uh, packages or whatever. And
Hmm.
if I'm using something right, then I can just throw my options in there so I can kind of keep it nice and clean, right? So here's like Shiny options, and then if I'm not in production, then I want to add all these other features or whatever. Um, so this kind of makes it nice because you're not dirtying up that file too much, and you keep things
Hmm.
organized kind of separately in their own little nice compartments, which is like what you're trying to do whenever you're programming. And right, like you don't,
Yeah.
I don't want to see a bunch of crap everywhere. Here, let me show you what a bunch of crap looks like. A bunch of crap looks like this. It looks like it looks like a particular file that I wrote that is ugly as shit.
Yeah, I've always liked having things sorted in there. If I set up file folders, I like everything in its own little spot.
Right.
To whatever
Right.
point is like logical. Like if it starts to get just ridiculous
right.
Okay, now we're just making,
So
now we're
you
just
see this, right?
eliminating
Like
based on nothing. Oh God, yeah.
here's a reactive, here's a reactive, here's a reactive, here's a
This looks like
reactive, here's a
the first
render
Shiny
UI,
script I did.
here's a
Yeah.
render UI, right? And so this is awful because you look at this and you say, I have no idea what the hell is going on. And you lose all ability to reason about it because as you're scrolling down the page, you lose the context up here, right? And you lose the context down here. You're trying to do surgery. Like it's like, I don't know, it's like being a surgeon, but you're like 2 inches tall and you're like working on a giant, and it's like
You
you need to
can't
be
see
like,
anything.
right. It's like the head is up here, but the feet are down here. Yeah, right. Um, so whenever you're developing your R applications, you're trying to push things out of a file, and you're trying to encapsulate things, and you're trying to keep that 1,000 or 30,000 foot view in a file somewhere. Otherwise, you lose your mind. So anyways, so that's your .r profile. So that loads these options here. I'm using npm Node Package Manager for some web stuff. So that's in this package.json. And if are you familiar with npm at all? Have you played with it? No, it's all good. So it's basically like rmv or whatever for like web apps. It does a bit more than that though, but it does like help manage your dependencies that you're using. It gives you the ability to run some scripts, right? So here, if I'm going to start my app, it's shiny run app source, right? This dev port thing here. This command is me using something called auto SSH, because if you notice here, I'm at indexr.com, right? 8787. This is actually my computer sitting in my living room, 600 miles from here. So it's connected to the internet, and it's using something called auto SSH to keep a connection alive between a port on that local computer and an EC2 server, where indexr.com lives. So my EC2 server is like, it's kind of like a router between me and my home computer. And that allows me to like use my 24 thread, 3080 GPU with 32 gigs of RAM or whatever, but only pay like $15 a month in cloud costs, because the EC2 server is a T2 Nano, and it's just like I don't know, like I know how to use a phone, right? And I can call somebody and they can talk to me, and but like I don't really know how it happens in between. Well, the difference here is that I know how the EC2 server works, but the EC2 server is basically like it's what connects those two. So this is saying, port 8000 on that EC2 server should be connected to that local host, and it's literally just like every other SSH command. You're doing something very similar whenever you SSH into a remote server. This just keeps it alive and allows you to make a connection between those ports. Are you familiar what ports are?
A little bit. Used them here and there.
Well, I mean, like right here, it's like indexr 8787, right? I've got Shiny server, and it opens up on port 8787. Well, you could specify the port to whatever you want, but this command would just be saying port on this computer connected to the port on that computer, and then I'm using my other stuff. Yeah, Sass. I'm using Sass for CSS, Dart Sass to be precise. And Sass, are you familiar with Sass? No big deal if not.
Are you talking about like the language Sass?
I mean, it's like fancy CSS, right? It's like CSS that is little bit easier to manage, right?
Hmm.
So, so here, right, I'm using boot swatch and bootstrap for my CSS,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so it can like compile CSS for you, and I like to have all of my stuff in like separate folders, right? It helps you be a little bit more modular and clean. You can write
Mm-hmm.
functions and all sorts of stuff, but this is like a very straightforward CSS file. And actually, the other thing is with SCSS, you can have variables. Let's see here, Bootstrap 5 variables. And something, I'm just looking for an example somewhere. Actually, we can probably go to the colors introduction. Color. Yeah. All colors. Says map. Trying to find something a little bit more straightforward. Bootstrap. Let's just do bootstrap background color. Actually, I have examples. I almost always I'm always referencing my old code. I don't.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Especially because I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes it's like this should be the most obvious thing to find. Oh man, I was working with what's the thing called? I think it was like some of the Plotly charts,
Hmm.
and there's something I wanted to do, and it was so ridiculous to figure out how to do it.
Hmm.
So I never go to their site anymore. I just look at the code I wrote because I'm like, here's how to do it. It's done.
Right. No, totally. Yeah, I don't have it in here either. Actually, default font bootstrap override. Let's do that. Yeah, because you should. Yeah, stuff like this. Here we go. Font family base. There we go. Customize. Maybe this is where I'm looking for. Good. Okay, yeah, I think that this might be all of the variables. So let's just look for background. Body BG. Yeah. So if I take this, right, so you can use variables in SCSS.
Oh, that's cool.
I think that I could just do like black or something, right? And then we'll actually. Oh, this might be cooler than I thought. Toggle all list files. Well, see, I put the at there. I think it's fine. BG dollar BG. Um, Here we go. Yeah, this is like their variables file. So if you feel like overriding any of the, yeah, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
See, like body, background, or whatever. What you would do is you would start up here, right? You would say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's not an @ sign, it's a $sign. I don't know why. Yeah. So that would override whatever's, happening in
Mm-hmm.
Bootstrap. So let's um, makes. So I would say npm run sass, which is one of those commands in there, and then it's going to recompile the SCSS or the CSS or whatever, and then npm run start, and it's going to open up a port on port 8000, and so I can just go in here and index.com, and then pull up the application, and you can see the background here is black, right? So if you're ever like wanting to figure out like what to update or whatever, you come in here and you say, you either Google it or you could come into
Mm-hmm.
node modules, bootstrap, SCSS, bootstrap, node modules, bootstrap, SCSS, bootstrap. And then like say you're working on, because bootstrap is great. I love it. There's so many different things you can do with it.
Yeah, I was playing around with it a little when I had to build an app.
Yeah, but the thing is that like you have to get it right. Like you have to set it up correctly, otherwise
Mm-hmm.
it's still going to look stupid.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I
so
saw you.
like,
That app looked really stupid.
I mean, it's taken me a long time like to kind of figure out the right way to structure things, but there's examples here like yeah, we'll actually get into it in a little bit because we'll probably be touching all this stuff. So I just kind of wanted to show that, but for now I'll just say white and call it a day. So, oops, npm run sass, and then it'll update that again and be back to normal. Okay, so that's the SCSS. It's set up correctly already. However, you might get this and you say, well, I don't actually have any of these node modules yet. So rm let's just blow them up, sudo rm-rf node modules. Oh no, they're gone. It's fine, because your package.json is your rm block, right? So you can just say npm install, and then it will read this and then rebuild that folder for you, right? So you would do rm restore to restore your rm folder, because the rm folder and the node modules folder does not exist inside of the repository for this application, because one, it exists in that one because I was being lazy. And I didn't update my git ignore. But here, there's no rm, right? This
Mm-hmm.
rm block and the package JSON is what rebuilds your environment. So other important things in here, git ignore, you know what the git ignore is.
Mm-hmm.
And rep rproj, that's pretty much everything here, right? There's very little code in this first directory. Just a one-liner saying
Mm-hmm.
source the source file, right? Yeah, one more, scripts. This is for random things that I do in development, right? So this has nothing to do with the application itself. And one thing that I've been trying to kind of manage is keeping my projects looking like this instead of looking like, awful.
Yeah.
Okay, so here in this source folder, not source, scripts, this git push will do a git add, git commit, git push, and then check the number of my Git branch and increment it 1 and check out a new branch, because I am lazy as fuck. So if I did npm run push, I will save this, push dev24, and then go to dev25. So, and if you think it's bad practice to do that, well, I would say I'm doing this for myself. I'm not on a team doing this.
I mean, it's just me.
And
so
I know it, and I know what I'm
do.
doing. So, and I'm not going to look back. I'm never going to look at Dev24 again. I'm going to git check. I would do this: git check on main, git merge, Dev25, git push origin main, and git check out Dev25.
This is still better than what I do, which is usually just like git
npm,
add all, git commit, git push.
That's literally what this is doing. It's just doing it faster than that. npm run push, and then oh well, okay, I can't because there's nothing to do. Dev26. All right, see, boom. All right. Other things here. So yeah, so that's this git push right here. Boom.
That's nice. I need to start using that.
Yeah, I mean, don't do it at work, or do it at work. I don't care. npm run style. Right. This is just
right now.
style.
I'm like the only one using Git.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
other people get on board, I'm not going to care. Sure.
So here, so styler, right? That'll style your files. So if I come over here, and if I go into, actually, I'll just show that to you here in a few minutes, because we'll be using all these commands. And then the last one is this HTML to tags. I found a cool package because I was about to build this for myself, and someone else had already done it.
I love that.
Here's the thing. If I open, well, here, let's just go here, right? Let's do like a bootstrap nav bar. I don't use fluid rows. I don't use the column function. I don't use anything that Shiny provides regarding functions that create HTML tags that do not have the name itself, right? Because if you look here, fluid, Shiny, fluid row, it's creating a div of class row. Why?
Yeah, that's
right. So in this case, it's hiding what's actually happening.
But what's happening is not that fancy.
It's not that fancy, and if you learn how to do this, then this is stupid now. So if you pop back over here,
if it's for something like complicated, but if
but
it's
like, look at this, right?
This is so simple. I could do. Yeah, I mean, this is not so bad.
Right. So here, this is actually what like HTML looks like, right? So in this case, I would look at this and I would say, well, fuck, now I have to convert this all the tags. Well, not any longer, because whoever wrote this package is an angel. So I just like, I'll have to do this, boop, and then assuming that you have your bootstrap adequately set up correctly, you just pop it in there, paste, and then convert, and now I've got all my R code. Weird things that you might see in this, but make sense, is on the left-hand side, you have arguments that would not work in R, which would be like this data toggle, because it's got a dash in between. You got to prefix those.
It has a little, yeah.
you gotta throw those in there. But now I've got all my HTML tags, and so I've got my Bootstrap code, right? And this is like manageable because this is how you're supposed to do it, and how Bootstrap shows you how to do it. So this is like a direct conversion from HTML to Shiny tags, and this is what my code looks like. It looks, you know, very clean, and you could use with tags if you want to drop this tag. So if I should probably do that for some of these. We'll maybe do that here in a little bit. So that is also here. So I will run that and convert stuff to tags. All right, so now let's actually look here at the application. It's not very fancy in the sense that there's a lot going on, but it's very well organized. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to at least get this template set up to where it kind of shows you and pushes you to do things in a very clean manner. So in source, we have CSS, JavaScript, and R. And then we've got our server and UI. They're very, very straightforward. So UI it's one module, right? So I've got this front end, UI front end, okay? And then here I've got front end, server front end, right? This is where I would say that I think that Shiny apps should be modules in and of themselves. And so, yeah, so everything is kind of contained within this, but if I wanted to, I could like duplicate the application, I guess. But it just makes me feel better to have to push things down and then also abstract things away. So
Yeah,
that's this server and UI. Okay, we've already kind of looked at the CSS here, and then I've also got some JavaScript files in here because I you know, for example, doing using cookies, right? Like cookies are little bits of information that you store in their, you know, in a user's browser that you can retrieve later on. So if like someone is logged in, right, that's usually handled with a cookie. You're logged in for X amount of time, and that cookie is stored on their computer, and it says, you know, you're authenticated for an hour or whatever, and then the website checks that and says, okay, well, you're still authenticated, so just log in. So I've already got it set up so cookies work, right? And there's an example of how that cookie works. This is the JavaScript that I wrote to do that random background the other day. This can be deleted because it's not there. This little enter I was using for a particular app, but like I wanted whenever you hit enter for the form to submit instead of like having to do a button press. Using this, you could use this function to make an element full screen. And then this is for like resizing stuff, but it's not a big deal. But there's examples of JavaScript hooked up and working correctly as well inside of this. So if we go to the front end, boop, we'll see. And I'm going to actually start throwing some browsers in here because we're going to talk through how the debugger works. So I'm going to throw a browser right here. And then I'm going to throw a browser right here. And right here. And right here. And okay, so now let's back up. So this is kind of like where things start getting fun. So in this sense, this is kind of like where all of the meat of the structure of the application is, right? So if you are familiar with an HTML page, right, you've got your HTML, and then inside of that, you've got your head, body, and main.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have scripts that you are using within the application down at the bottom of your body. This Shiny.js, extend Shiny.js allows me to use this random JavaScript file that I used whenever you push a button and do that, right? So this is there, and you'd have to just kind of like say, okay, well, how do I do this? Well, I need to look at this file, and then I see that there's a function in there, and then I have to figure out where am I using this thing inside of the app. But it's pretty straightforward. And then down here, we've got modules and modules, right? So we've got servers and whatever else inside of this server, which is inside of, right? So you've got a server here, and then you've got a server here inside of this server. But the thing with your what am I trying to say? The thing with this, okay, here's the thing I don't like about this. If you look in UI, okay, I'm not using a namespace here, okay? There's this like ns function, right? ns up here, right? This is kind of like how you connect your UI piece with your server piece. This is literally just this literally just makes like a prefix. It returns a string, but if I did shiny ns and then I did blah blah blah, right? It returns a function that does like hello, whatever, right? So it just prefixes stuff, right? And what happens is, like, whenever you're looking at your UI and server, and I don't know how to say it other than you can't create your entire Shiny application with only modules. You have to have this input-output session thing. And then within your server, so if we go to front end, right, and if we go down to the server front end, you pass, to create a module, you pass an ID, and then you use module server with this ID, and then this, and then you have your input-output session kind of thing, like within this function. But you don't use module server initially, right? So like this server here, like this is a server function, but it's not a module. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it does. So you have like that's the main Shiny server function.
Right,
That
but like if
you
you're
just have to follow its syntax, and then underneath of that you can build the module servers.
Right,
And this is just kind of wraps it all up.
And here's the difference, right? With this UI and the server here, there is no namespace on this UI. Okay, there's no namespace function here. But if you go to the front end, right, boom, namespace. Like once you actually start doing shit, you're using a namespace. And so people, I think, kind of maybe get confused because, like, do I use a namespace here or not? I like to the reason why this is separate is because, like, there's a reason why this is different here, right? You're not using a namespace. You're not putting a namespace around this. But every other module, which I will show you if we look in the router, it's going to have a namespace on that UI, right? So terminal, UI terminal, namespace terminal. And then down here in the front end, and here's the other thing. Here's the rule. You use namespace and UI components, but not, and you can use namespace in the server, but for your server itself, you don't need to put namespace around it. So here, if you see server terminal, and then here, NS, terminal. This is required for the UI part, but it's not required for declaring the server itself. And the reason why is because these servers already know what the namespace is, and so that's just kind of how this works. So there's like the cookie server. I'm playing with like building a terminal, and then here's the sidebar. But anyway, so let's throw a browser here. We'll throw a browser down here, and then talk about a few other things. Okay, so Bootstrap is set up. I've got D3.js set up. Cookies are set up, and then here's a script here. This is all of like the metadata about your page, right? So this is all set up to work well with Bootstrap 5. You can update the who made it, the description of things, like the icon for the page itself, which actually I haven't had set up. So I need to fix that because I need to update this. And talk about other things real quick. Okay. I think that I can actually, I can delete this too because I don't want that there. All right. Resources are here. If you notice, actually, I think that I can get rid of that too. Let's see. I'm trying to get rid of these because I don't want them there, and here's the reason why. Here's this includes script function. Have you built a Shiny app and done like tags, link, what is it like? Actually, I have it right up here, right? Tags, link, style sheet, right? I'm using this CSS from somewhere else, right? If I have this right here, okay, and if I wanted to, and let's just do this here. Let's pull this out, and let's use a relative link. Or I don't know. I'm maybe making up words here. But let's do boop, and then let's use blah, and then if I go over here, right? So this prefix is saying in this directory path, we're at this location, we're going to include that for to make it accessible to the application, right? And then this is the prefix. So in this case, we would be using this style sheet here, whatever, right? So so let's pull this out first, and then let's run the app, and then let's see what it looks like. So if we go to npm run start, and then we go to boop, then okay, hold on, what are we doing wrong? I'm gonna remove my browsers real quick. Oh, and that's the other trick is you can do a find all and then boop, they're gone. So you don't have to remember where you put them. That is Control-Shift-F and then find and replace. So, oh, it's working because we haven't uncommented. So now let's do this npm run start and refresh, and it should look dumb, hopefully. Yeah, see, looks dumb, right? But watch this. I'm gonna do that, okay, and then I'm gonna do this. And I'm going to rerun the application, npm run start. I removed the resource path, and I added this back in. And what's going to happen compared to the last time? Hold on, that should not have worked. So style sheet, right? And right, so like, I think what I'm trying to say is this definitely should still not work. Even though it kind of looked like it did. It's like, what in the, hold on, I think I need to like clear something. So
Good old rule of showing someone something when you say this isn't going to work is like it
well,
always works.
well, I think what's happening is that information might be stored with this page. So I'm going to inspect. Let's see here. Maybe if we look at the application. So sources. Yeah, see, there's this, it's in there still.
So it saved it. Interesting.
Right. But this is actually a good thing to see because right, like it got stored for this page and it's like and it's there, right? But assuming searching all files, there's got to be a way to like clear just this page. Sources. Is there a way to delete or something? Go to history. And then let's just clear anything related to my site. Like select all or something. There we go. Delete. Move. Hopefully if we see, it's gone, right? However, if I use this here, it's going to say you can't do that. And that's important because I don't want things to implicitly break. So if I said, and if I did this, right, npm run start, here it will start up and then we'll start the app and then an error has occurred, right? It can't find it. So all of that to say, use your include CSS or include script and you'll know it's working. Which is why I try to avoid these resource paths if I can. So with that said, I'm going to put that back. And if I close this, then now everything should work. npm run and start. And now the application is back up and running. All right. Next tip is whenever you are building your application, you need to think container, row, column. Container, row, this is a column, this is a column, okay? Rows go in containers and columns go in rows. That will help you make sure that you're structuring things in kind of an appropriate way. And container fluid is like one that spans the full width. You can read more about this at Bootstrap, but if you go to this getting layout here, you would probably start looking at containers, right? Learn how the container works. But really it's just like container and container fluid. Those are the big ones. And then what you do is you go from there and you hop into Bootstrap, rows. It's the grid system. Here we go. Yeah. So here, container, row, column. And this column here, this section here, the SM is saying on small screens or above. And let's see here. I want to find a couple examples. Yeah. So yeah. So this is saying like on so columns are you can split them up by 12. You got like 12 little boxes you could do, right? So it goes from 1 to 12. If you do 6, it's half, right? So this is saying where this 1 of 3 is, on large screens and above, this is width 2. Otherwise, it will be width 12, full width. So let's see here. This says, right, call large 2, right? But right now it's width 12, right? 12, 12. Let's open this up slowly. So this is going to say call medium auto. So as this opens up a little bit, you see here this variable width, right? Auto on medium. This is on a medium screen. And then we've got 2 and then 2. And then as we, well, maybe not 2 and 2. These are just, let's see, what is this? Call large 2. Call empty auto. Row justify content medium center. I see. So justify content. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, let's just boop. Right, you can see how it's changing. That's the big thing. So if you want things to kind of be responsive on mobile, right? Like you can kind of think, well, on a small screen or above, I want it to be with 2, or on a medium screen above, I want it to be with 6, right? And so it's with these little call screen size
Yeah, this
width.
is helpful because I remember I was once trying to do this and it was a real pain with just like the R stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was like, I need it to collapse a certain way, so this is over this. Just
Right,
I figured it
right. So
out, but I don't think it was very pretty.
yeah, but like what's nice is that you could sit here on the Bootstrap website and you could look at it and I mean, look at this, right? Boop, like let's just do this. Copy, right? Copy. You can come over here and you can just say, we're not going to put it, well, what is this? It's a container. So we'll just do something like this. Tags, shiny HTML. Right. So if you see something you like, you can just come over here, run it, and then npm run start. I mean, yeah, I'm not doing this to look good here, but like you can see, like this code is down there now, right? And if we take this and we shrink it, then it's going to do, whatever whatever we just copy pasted. All right. And I put it outside of the container because it has its own container. Okay.
I need to step away for one moment. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. Take a second. I'm gonna go refill my coffee. All right, not sure if you're there, but I'm back whenever. Anyone sitting around, I'm just thinking, hey, I'll change the base font for code. So let's see here. And and Google Fonts, Fira code.
Yeah, I'm back.
Go. Cool. I just thought we were talking about Fira earlier, and I've got a code thing in there. So what I could do is I could update the code font family, just as another example of the SCSS. So if I were to click on download, no, not download. I just need, like, if
You're
you go
not
to
sharing
Google
your screen
Fonts.
anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. Share screen. Share screen. Stop window. Entire screen. Okay. So yeah. So let's see here. Maybe white. And for SCSS, I think. Okay. Yeah. So I take this, copy, and I can throw it into this here. And and then take this right here and paste. And actually, in this case, because we're doing something with fonts, we could, again, create a new file because that's what you should do. CSS. And then we could say fonts, and then cd into fonts, and then touch Fira code .scss, and then Fira code CSS. Boom, and at import fonts Fira code. Actually, I think NPM I don't know why every time I see SCSS, it's got the underscore in the front, but like it often does. Okay, so let's see. npm run start, and then let's oh, it's already running. Npm run start, and then yeah, so now it's Infura, right? Pretty. So I like that. All right, so where are we at next? So yeah, so we talked a little bit about container rows and columns. Next is routing. So Epsilon has a really cool package called Shiny Router. And if you notice here, like all of the modules of this app, well, the meat and bones is inside of this router here. So I've got the namespace right here. Actually, if I wanted to like force it, I think that I might actually do that. I think I'm going to do this. Yeah. So the question is, would it make sense to allow a namespace being used outside of the meat and bones of this? And the answer is yes, because there's a sidebar there. Okay, all righty, that's the answer. Okay, so let's take and then let's go into router. So I do control period to open up files. That way I don't have to
That
think about where
is
they live.
the best shortcut I've ever found.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I think you told me about it, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's my favorite shortcut.
Yep. You need things organized, but you don't want to click on them. All right, and then we'll. Here and okay, so things Shiny Router. The example Shiny Router gives you is cool, but I kind of like my example better, and here's the reason why. In this case, you've got your router, right? Make router, and what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to create like separate pages. So if you kind of look in, they're saying here's a browse, and then here's a person, right? If you look here in this, I don't want to see anything like that. Yeah, it kind of helps separate your application into nice little chunks where they can be independent. But here's the thing: this router is being created outside of this UI and server. Well, what if this is a module and you want a router inside of your module? You need some way to take this information and put it here and here without it being declared outside. So if you look up in our router here, boop. We've got the main UI and the terminal. If you went to /main, then this is like the home base, right? And then terminal would be another page. So what I do is I just throw it in a function and then pass it into my front end here, where I have the UI part, and then down here I've got the server part. So you could use it like within a module instead of being declared outside. And this is where I say like, I think the easiest example would be to actually like conceptually of what I'm trying to force people to do or to think about is whenever you're trying to write functions, you're trying to abstract, right? You're trying to condense information. You're not trying to make a very long script. You want all of your information kind of like tidied up with like a nice little neat bow. So if you were to create your new file here, and let's do a Shiny Web App. This is a dumb example. Here, right? This fluid page is not how I would have done this. If I was going to write this example at a minimum, I would have done this function X and turn this into a function data, right? Because now I can debug it, right? So if I were to hop in here and say run app, oops. Oh, right. Yeah, I need to turn off the other thing because I've got the option. Okay. Hey, look at this. Now I'm actually able to debug my application and manage it. And I learned that, oh, there's actually stuff that's passed in here. Holy crap. As.list, let's look at this. And look at all this information we just got. Like, that's kind of cool. All of this header information. But like, if you, and so like here, I've pushed down this data, or I've encapsulated it within a function. So in this case, you're thinking, oh, well, nice. Like, you know, I've kind of got this little container, right, for this information. But what's something like outside or above this UI and server that I might want? Like, if I was to build an application like this, what if I wanted users, right? Like individual users, how would I do user management? That would have to happen somewhere between, you know, being passed parameters for the application, like, like like this is all HTTP stuff, right? But like somewhere between where this is passed in and here, I would have to figure out how to do user management. But if I start with this fluid page and try to contain all of that within this fluid page or below, then it's just impossible. Like, you have to be able to take what you've built and where it logically makes sense to do things before building this page. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. But what I'm trying to say is you should be writing functions. And in this case, maybe sidebar layout needs to go out and be its own function or whatever. But you're
No, I
always
think
trying
that makes
to,
sense.
you're always trying to shrink and abstract is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, in fact, one way I've always tried to explain to like people I'm trying to teach on my team is I like to think of functions, think of them like a paragraph. It is something that does a cohesive thought, whatever that is. And then it's almost like if we were laying out like a document outline. Now we can just say, oh, well, this paragraph 1, this paragraph 2. We have a way to quickly reference what those are with like a short little description. So when we look at them all together, it's really easy to move them around, to combine them however we need. So to me, this makes so much sense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in this example, right, like that little application would be something way down in here, right? Like you've really, yeah. So, and I have some other examples where I do have user management surrounding this stuff, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, so now let's just hop into it, and then I'm gonna make a couple other places to stop. So let's look at the sidebar here. So actually, yeah, so this is, let me do, I'm gonna do a Control F tags. So I said I'd come back to the with tags. So replace all with nothing. There's no more of these. Within with tags, you have to have one element. So I'm going to do shiny with tags. And that kind of makes it a little bit cleaner. So let's do this browser. And this is all the Bootstrap CSS, right? I like all these divs because now I can actually get flexible with the CSS and use it the way that it's intended to be used. We've got an observe event here. I can show that. And then let's look at the terminal. Sure, why not? Terminal.r. Let's throw here. Let's do another one just to show some example. Boop me. And then let's do Bootstrap icons is hooked up. So Bootstrap icons, I don't know. What's something that looks cool? Box arrow left. Whatever. BI dash box arrow left. All right. So how do you create an action button without using action button? Shiny action button. Is that okay? You do is you look at it and you say, oh, I have to put this action dash button class inside of a button in order to create my own custom action button. That's all it takes. So you don't even have, like, if you should just use Shiny components and whatever else to figure out how to do it yourself, is what I would say. So if you wanted to do a Shiny select eyes input or whatever, if you wanted to do a select eyes input, right, and you didn't know how to do it, and you could, blah, 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 and then blah, 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 and then that was dumb because now I have to get that exact. Whatever, LOL, right? You've got your HTML here, and then you just kind of like set it up however you need to. But this is going to allow you to edit things and get more fine-tuned. Because if you look at the Shiny action button, there's CSS in here that they've already added. And what if you don't want that? There's these classes here that like you can't change. So I would say it's better to do it yourself if you're actually trying to build like applications for a big company, because you have to be able to have all of the control. I want all of the control with a ton of clarity.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this in here, but I want to show an example of just reactivity and how that works. So take this. I'm going to put this down a little bit lower because it's just going to be, actually, we'll do that in a minute. We'll do another example so I don't mess this up. All right, so we've got the terminal here. This is using Shiny Ace. Yeah, let's look at the cookies. That's more interesting. So this is the server without a UI component at the moment. There's no reason why you have to have a UI and a server. You could have just a UI or just a server. But in this instance, I'm going to say browser here. And then I'm going to say browser here. And then we'll do, yeah, let's just do that. And instead of running it the way that I've been running it, I want to hop into the terminal, or not the terminal, the debugger. So we will at the R. I don't know the last time I restarted my session, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Restart session and run app. Okay, so the debugger. Let's look at all of the places that I threw a browser. So we've got a browser here in sidebar, front end, cookies, and terminal. Okay. So it's stopping us in the sidebar right now. But what's kind of nice is that, like, you know, with that debugger, you can stop your application anywhere, right? You just throw a browser, and so long as it's within a function, then you can kind of step through things. So if you look here, you've got the debugger up now. You've got next, continue, stop, hop into a function, or step through a loop. So if you're on top of a loop and you've got like 100 iterations or whatever, you can hit this and it will execute the remainder of the current function or loop. Kind of cool, huh? So let's actually execute the remainder of the current function and just step to the next spot. Okay, so now we're in the toolbar. It's building the UI currently. So let's just, yeah, that's the toolbar for the terminal. Step through, step through. Yeah. So this is why I would say, like, you know, if you understand the debugger, right? Like if you're actually developing something, you can kind of stop wherever you want. Okay, so Shiny.js. In this instance, if we look here at the front end and we come down to this cookies section, right? So I have this code for cookies. So this has to be included in order for the for this code up here to work. Let me go back to it, cookies.r. Actually, I don't, Shiny.js doesn't need to be here. I'm not using that for this. I'll show that in a moment. Because this is just straight up copy paste from, if you Google like cookies and Shiny, there's an example, but I got it working. But this is a way of like chatting with the R server in the background there. So if you notice, I think we stopped right, where did we stop? Yeah, right here. If we do input cookie, there's nothing here. So this, let me pull up the function here. East.js. Okay. And let's, oh, did I close up? No, I didn't. Okay, good. And then let's look over here and inspect. Go to the console. All right. So I'm actually not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about how this works, because it's a bit more advanced. But there's a couple functions here, and this cookies.get, that is a function that is provided by, actually, this is a good example. So let's look at the front end source R front end. Here we have node modules JS cookie, right? JS dash cookie, and then JS dash cookie npm whatever. So we're using this package in order to manage cookies, right? We're not doing a whole lot, but you can look in here and you can say, okay, well, the basic usage is cookies.set name and value, but we have to be able to set this up to work with R, right? So, I installed the JS cookie, script with npm, and then in order to handle it through R, we have to add a little bit of our own code, which gets into Shiny JavaScript code. So if we look here, this is the function that says, okay, we're going to get all of our cookies, and then the Shiny set input value actually like passes it back to Shiny for us. So here in a second, whenever we do input $, we'll actually have the cookies in there, and this is being handled by this function. So this updates the cookies in Shiny, or gives it to us in Shiny. These other functions are for setting a cookie, right? So from R, we're going to actually pass an argument with the name, value, and then this will update the cookies in Shiny. In this case, this is setting a cookie. This is getting cookies, and then this is removing cookies. So in this case, we remove and then update R, right? I don't think we actually need cookie get. I think I can delete this because we just set and remove. If you set, update R, remove, update R. That's what's happening here. The other thing with JavaScript is that the order of these things doesn't matter. Are you familiar with that? Like, we're not reading this from top down. This is a description of like what will happen if these things are called.
Mm-hmm.
In the same sense that, like, if you're doing a reactive in Shiny, right? Shiny doesn't work from top down. You're giving the computer a template or instructions on what you want to happen, and then the computer makes it happen. That's reactivity for you. But anyway, so there's this file here. But what's nice is like this just works, and then if you want to explore more, then you just open up the application. But in this case, we are saying, okay. One other thing though. If we wanted to set our own cookies, or not set our own cookies, if we back up, we go to application cookies, boop. We look in here. So here's some I've been kind of playing with. But you could actually set this in the console with cookies dot set, right? So this is the JavaScript code itself. And test. Okay, so that should work. And then if we go to application, right, you see how we've set a cookie, right? So we've hooked up JavaScript. You can do anything in JavaScript and Shiny. Like it's all there. It's just figuring out how to make it all talk. So yeah, we can talk more about like how all this stuff works, but it's really good to kind of like understand how to use your Chrome console. Okay. So Shiny require, it won't let you pass if you don't have cookies, but I think that we will here in a second. Okay, so now if we do input $, nothing still, I think. Okay. Yeah, so input cookie is not greater than 0, so it's going to try again. Next. Okay. Let's see, input. Right? So now it's actually passed back that information for us. So we've updated input, like you know how you have an action button or whatever else within input, right? We've been able to update input with information from JavaScript using that set custom handler JavaScript function. So next, and then so and so now because we've actually been able to get a cookie, it'll pop back and pop in there. All right, let's see here. So I'm just gonna say stop browser, find place all, yes. And then let's do npm run start. So Shiny JS. Okay, so I was playing around. Okay, that's not working. Just a second. I need to add this back because I'm using, I think extend Shiny JS is using this. I think that's why. Okay. Shiny JS is nice. It's an easier way of doing kind of what we just did. Well, except the reason why we just did what we did was for slightly different reasons. It's because we needed to update the input actually. If you just need to execute some JavaScript code, Shiny JS is really nice. So if we, let's go back to the app and here's this randomly colored div or whatever, right? So I was just kind of like playing with this the other day or yesterday. This is using Shiny JS. So this is an action button right here. And what it does is if we go to the sidebar and we come down here, we've got this background random. Oh, look, I'm using an action button. I'll eat my words. But in this case, okay, so we've got an observe event right here. So this JS function from Shiny JS, and we've got this BG random. Okay, so front end, use Shiny JS is in there, but then down here we have, okay, go to JavaScript BG random.js, and inside of there's a BG random function. Okay, so source JavaScript BG random example. Now with Shiny JS, you have to prefix it with the Shiny JS dot, and then your other functions can be in here. But in this case, we're just doing some pretty straightforward JavaScript. So if we, let's open up the application again. Index 30,000. And we go into inspect. We can play around inside of the console here as well. So in the same instance, like we could say document.get elements by tag name, right? And so what if we want to grab all of the divs and do something with them in JavaScript? Well, we could say const divs. Right now we have all of our divs. And really, I mean, like, I'm hoping, or I feel like I should be able to just like copy paste this in there. We'll find out, I guess. maybe not. What am I doing wrong? Oh, there you go. Right. So if you're trying to create your little JavaScript function, you can play with it over here and then throw it in over here. But really, like, what's going to happen is now Shiny.js knows about this. We've declared it right here. And then if I go down into the sidebar, it's right here, right? So every time we hit this button, it's going to execute that JavaScript code and then update the application. Boop, right? Kind of nice. Hey, dude. Oh, my son's up. Yeah, but anyway, so I've got like everything nice and neat, right? So you've got the R folder here. Here's sidebar, right? If you want to do like extra functions based on whatever, you could throw them inside of that folder. But the idea is to keep things as nice and neat and clean as possible. Separate all of your stuff in a way that like makes sense, but really what I'm trying to do here is to basically build like the absolute best and cleanest shiny template, because I think that there's just not enough good examples out there. And if you start with a good example, it shows you so much more than trying to learn through however many years of trial and error. So, I mean, I've been doing this for a minute, and so I think that this could help out a lot of people. But
yeah, this is amazing.
Cool, man. Well, I am. I'm gonna keep working on this. There's other stuff that I'm gonna add, but like, things like. Hey, I know, dude. Okay, yeah, I think my son's about done. He just woke up from a nap, so I think I'm a hop. But if you could send me that video, and I'll send you the repo, and